Sure. Okay, we will call the April 9th, 2024 meeting of the Norfolk School Committee to order. As always, we will begin our meetings by reading the mission statement. The Norfolk Public Schools offers a safe, joyful, and challenging learning environment that meets the needs of our diverse students. Through school, family, and community partnerships, we provide an education that inspires lifelong learners and cultivates caring and productive citizens of our ever-changing world. Roll call, please.
Grace Lockhead.
Lisa Sheldon.
Jennifer Wynn.
Medora Champagne.
Victoria Soldano. Ingrid Alarney.
And I believe we have one more member who will be joining us
shortly.
Meeting, and I'm sure she will be very unobtrusive and slip in, so it should be fine. So first item on our agenda is public comment. Well, we have some public. I don't think they are here to comment. Going once. All right, moving on. Next item is correspondence, of which we have none. So we are flying. And then the third item on our agenda is part of my school committee chair report, which is a report on the gift fund. So exhibit 1, we have some very generous gifts from the ever generous Norfolk PTO. That is a hard number to read. I'm going to say it in my head once. All right, we have a total of $2,698.97. Which are earmarked as teacher grants towards FK. And then are we just...
Those are all different teacher grants.
Okay, so the teacher grants encompass subscriptions to Scholastic STEM magazine, some sets of Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, dry erase boards and paper and whiteboard paper, games for the Falcons Club, or Falcons to Falcons Club, I'm sorry, individual subscriptions for math, science, and teen breakout, EDU, makerspace materials, outdoor building blocks, and $1,000 grant geared towards, I think, SEL materials. That's what I see. So looking for a motion to approve the gifts as stated. You do not have to recite the awkward number.
I make a motion to approve the gifts from the Norfolk PTO as stated.
Second.
Any further discussion? No, other than a heartfelt thank you to the PTO as always. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Next, we will move on to Dr. Alardi for the superintendent's report.
Okay. So our business consultant, Miriam Goodwin, is not here tonight, so I'm just going to walk quickly through the third quarter budget update. You should have that in your packet. The first two slides just talk about the total budget allocation for the Norfolk schools, which is $15,086,615. So that's our operating budget for fiscal 2024. The funds are broken down by category. Overall, we have areas where we're over budget, a few areas where we have savings. We are projecting using 100% of the school budget funds this year. In the first category, district administration, we are projecting that we will spend all of those funds. You can see that there's a negative amount, $23,320. That is because the SAC program director's salary is offset by tuition, and that tuition, that offset happens in the spring. So we will offset the deficit with the $20,000 from tuition revolving for SAC to cover that salary. The next category is instructional services. This is where the bulk of our budget is. This is teacher salary and all other paraprofessional, professional development, our instructional supplies. Right now we are projecting a deficit of about $8,000. Again, you see under this category that we do offset a portion of the music teacher salary with band fees. And again, that transfer happens in the late spring, so that hasn't happened yet. When we transfer that $15,000, the deficit we're projecting in instructional services is about $8,000. Some of the reasons driving that deficit you can see in the comments section. We did have to add some additional paraprofessional staff this year to support students who'd moved into the district who had unique educational needs. We've had to contract out for some services, some based on unanticipated leaves of absence. Translation services, we may have a savings in that. We haven't spent all of the allocated funds for translation, but we are not ready to release them because we still have 2 months of school. But that could be an area that will help offset that $8,000 deficit. And again, the music transfer is still pending. The next category is other student services. This is our health, nursing, pupil transportation, and security network. We're projecting a deficit there of about $35,000. This is primarily driven by increases in transportation. So post-budget, we had to add a second van for transportation for students enrolled in the preschool program and for other students who receive specialized transportation. We couldn't accommodate the number of students with the van force that we had, so we had to add an additional van to the route. And then we also had to add additional transportation services for a student due to a change of placement from the district to an out-of-district placement during the course of the year. So that account is, we are projecting a deficit. Operations and maintenance, we are actually looking at a surplus there. Again, process-wise, when we get to May, the business consultant will bring forward recommendations for budget transfers to balance the line items out. But as you know, we were without a deputy director of facilities for several months, so that unfilled salary generated some savings. There was also we talked about this way back in September when a budget reduction was made for a student that left the district. There was a $40,000 deduction taken from there instead of from transportation. So it should have come out of a different line. So we have an overage there. We're projecting a balance of $131,000. So this funds, when we get closer to the end of the year, may be able to be applied to other accounts that are over to help us balance that out. Fixed charges is employee retirement, insurance programs, other contractual benefits, sick leave buyback, things like that. We are projecting a balance of $11,000 at the end of the fiscal year in that account. The next is my favorite. I'm not sure why we always report on this because we don't budget for it. So we have $0 budgeted for equipment and we've spent $0. So that's neutral. Programs for out-of-district, students receiving services out of district. We are expecting a deficit there. Again, this is driven by a couple of things. We did have a student outplaced after the start of the fiscal year. We also have not made that transfer, as I noted before, from facilities. We are going to be reclassifying funds to the circuit breaker, and that is the state reimbursement program that will allow us to offset special education costs. That hasn't happened yet, but when we do apply the circuit breaker funds, we are still looking at a deficit of about $126,000 in that line. So the last slide shows you the all in, what's available and where we're over, and you can see based on the current projections, we will be expending 100.17% of the budget. Obviously, we only have 100% to spend, so we are in a budget freeze. We may, as I said, some funds we haven't spent out, but it's too early to release the encumbrances because we don't know what additional costs we'll have in the last 2 months. But at this point, we are projecting that we may have some salary savings in the substitute line. We may have some salary savings in district legal. We may have some salary savings in the translations line. Hopefully, we will end the year with about $10,000, $15,000 remaining that we could apply towards the ELA purchase, which you know we've only budgeted for half of the cost of that adoption. So we hope to have some funds available. It won't be a significant amount because of overages that we're trying to work on balancing at this point. The last slides show you information. Again, these are proposed reclassifications. The $124,000 from the circuit breaker, which we would like to apply to special education. $30,000 from SAC. That offsets some of the facilities custodial costs, and it offsets part of the SAC director salary. Food service, we budget for the cafeteria assistants through the food service revolving, so that transfer will happen, and then from band fees to offset the music teacher salary. So those will be coming forward in probably at the May meeting. Below you see the revolving account balances. There's nothing significant in there. I would say preschool, you see there's a pretty healthy balance, but that does pay for salaries for our assistants and some of our teachers, so that will be expected to be spent down. Non-resident tuition, we have about $100,000. All of that entire budget line is used to balance next year's budget, so that will be applied to that. And again, SAC has some additional costs for staff that will be coming out of the balance, paying staff through the remainder of the fiscal year, or school year. Special revenue revolving funds. Again, this is a little misleading because some of these funds are paid out at the end of the fiscal year. They're salary lines. So we have the teacher quality grant. We have some special education grants. All of the first four are primarily dedicated to salary, and we do project will be spent out. The Metro West Health Foundation grant was for $60,000. That's a 2-year grant, so we expect to expend half of it this year. So you see, we have $42,000 remaining. We should end the year with $30,000. That's also funding a salary line. Those are the special revenue. Last slide is other special revenue funds. Again, we have a $250,000 special education stabilization fund. We are proposing at the April 23rd joint meeting of the Select Board and School Committee that we allocate half of the balance of that account to offset special education costs in the next fiscal budget. So that line would then reduce to $125,000. And circuit breaker, we are applying $124,000 to next year's budget. And then we will be receiving funds that will, at the end of this fiscal year, that could be applied to the next fiscal year. And then the last is just a summary of what's in the gift account. So you can see this is generally used to fund enhancements to instructional programs, Camp Borndale scholarships, and special events like the grade level field days at the end of the year. Currently, there is $42,000 in that account. Happy to take any questions on the third quarter budget summary.
Ingrid, I just have a question about circuit breaker, and you think
Yep.
I should know this by now, but circuit breaker is to offset special ed cost. Is there a formula?
There
Is it
is.
similar to the other state formula for like transportation?
There is a formula. Circuit breaker offsets the cost of educational programming for high-cost students whose educational programs significantly exceed the foundation budget. So there is a formula for who is eligible, and then we apply based on costs for individual students, and then we're reimbursed a portion of their programming. So yeah, there is a formula that goes.
Does that formula change year to year?
No, it's a pretty standard formula.
So you can kind of estimate exactly.
Yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes what they consider eligible costs might change. So we have an estimate. We have to prepare the claim every year and submit it over the summer, and then we're told what portion of the claim they'll fund. It isn't, circuit breaker on the state level is not fully funded.
Right.
So they don't pay the full claim.
Just off the top of your head, do you think that
It's
like
about-
50% or?
It's been around in the low 60s for reimbursement, but only for those students that are eligible that we can claim.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you have to reach a
Yeah,
certain
threshold, yeah.
threshold.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And the response on the claim can just be different every
Well,
year?
no, it's just sometimes that what we're considering, it's kind of a complicated submission, and sometimes what we think are eligible costs, the state will come back and say, we don't consider these eligible costs, or you go back and forth on that, and then you submit the claim. It's just a complicated process.
Do they take-
What sometimes gets muddy is whether we contract out for service or whether we're providing speech OT, sometimes in-house, so sometimes it's a little messy how we're claiming certain services.
Okay.
And do they take into account, are we considered a wealthy community like
No.
the other, like the student opportunity?
No,
Act,
it's not
all
like
that
the
stuff?
SOA or
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
chapter
that's it.
7.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Sure. All right, so if there's no other budget questions, then next is, I'll turn it over to Vicki Saldana and the ELA committee, who are going to be speaking. Oh, no, I'm sorry, they're not, but Vicki's going to be speaking tonight, and they're here to support the ELA presentation, so.
So thank you very much. I'm going to present from my seat just because the microphone is pretty close. Oh my gosh, I think I'm nervous because you guys are here. The ELA Review Committee and myself are here on behalf of our Norfolk Public School educators and administrators to present our ELA review process and also to put forth our recommended program that we think will really help enhance our English Language Arts program for all our students. And we'll definitely have an opportunity to have some questions at the end of the slide, which at the end of this presentation, I will definitely give an opportunity if anybody wants to chime in, please feel free to do so. And then I also brought just a couple of samples if after the meeting you just want to kind of look through the materials. obviously we don't have the many options, but I think this gives you a good kind of feel of the different components of the program. So this presentation, I just kind of broke it down into 3 parts, which is, like I mentioned before, I'm going to go over the different phases, which I know I've shared with you before, so it'll be a quicker overview. Our data that we've collected to help inform our process and our findings. And then I wanted to kind of share with you our 2 selected programs that kind of came to the top for us, and how the decision process kind of went for us and why we ended up going with one versus the other. And then just talk about program recommendations and next steps. So when we kind of began this process, we wanted to have kind of a guiding statement that would inform us, and what we kind of came up with as a committee, that this is kind of captures our value of what we believe English language arts should provide for our students. So our overarching objective during this whole thing is to select a reading, writing, and phonics resources that are evidence-based, culturally inclusive, and will put all our students on a path towards literacy for life. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible committee that has been working, has put in like 2 years of their time. This has been a really thorough process, and we really have invested a lot of time in making sure that when we're ready to make a recommendation, we really did feel strongly that it was the best program that will help support our educators, that will in turn support all our students. So I just wanted to acknowledge some of our committee members are here to kind of show support. So we have Kylie Day, who is our kindergarten representative. She shared this position over the last 2 years. It was Sonia Cataldo and Jennifer Pfeiffer, who are all-star kindergarten teachers. We have Marian Hart, who was our grade 1 representative. We have Betsy Hazel, who is our grade 2 representative. We have Lori Leidner, who is representing grade 3. Amy Bennett, who was our grade 4 representative. Catherine Tully and Risa McKenzie were our grade 5 representatives. They also shared this position. Cheryl McNeely, who was our grade 6 representative. Beth O'Connor, who is our HOD literacy specialist, and she shared the position with Libby Longley, who's also our HOD literacy specialist. Holly Merritt, who is our HOD special educator. Amy Camo, who is our Freeman Kennedy special educator. Messia Fonts, who is our Freeman Kennedy literacy specialist. And we also had Linda Balfour when she was here. She also participated in the committee process, and Lisa Althenpicke, who were kind of our administrators that represented this. So once again, I just wanted to extend our deepest thank you. Like I said, the process was really thorough, and they really helped push my thinking too in the whole way, and I think that they really put forth the interests of the students at the heart of this whole entire process. And so I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge, so thank you. So our scope of work, so we went through 6 phases. It's kind of like how the 2 years were broken into. We started with a needs assessment, which basically we wanted to identify and assess our literacy systems, kind of including what our current curriculum was, what are our strengths and areas of weakness that we needed to kind of look at. Our second phase was basically, we call it sharing information, where we sent out a couple of surveys to families and staff members to kind of gather their feedback in terms of how their experience was with our current literacy program. We then spent a significant amount of time unpacking the research. So we kind of, and that was more concurrent. We looked at all different data, which I'll speak a little bit about further down in our presentation. But just to make sure that our work was pretty data-driven as well, so we can really identify like what our needs of the district are. Phase 4, we developed a rubric to help kind of guide us as we review different literacy programs. And that rubric was used when we were evaluating the different programs, and when we did our final 2 selection, the same rubric was used for feedback from the staff as well. So we wanted to have some consistency. Our phase 5 was basically when we selected 2 programs, which was into reading and to literature. Into reading is a K through 6 program. We also looked at their middle school model, which is into literature, which is 6 through 8. And then we looked at the expeditionary learning, which is a different program, K through 6. So those were the 2 programs we kind of wanted to do a more thorough exploration of. And then we're in a final phase where we kind of gathered feedback and are ready to make our recommendation. So as I mentioned before, we really did do a thorough data-driven process. So we looked at our MCAS district versus state comparisons. We did a 5-year dive. We looked at a vertical alignment. We disaggregated that information by grade level to really kind of identify what are areas that were working really well, that it may be some things that we want to make sure we preserve, versus what are the areas that were gaps that we wanted to kind of, that we needed to address. We went through the different phases, which is a research-based process of looking at data. We went where phase 1 was basically we predicted what we think we're going to see. Phase 2, we went visual, so we looked at all our data and our scores, like I said, not only in the state level, but the ones that we've gathered in district as well. We made observations about what we saw. This was actually a very thorough, broke into sub-teams, and we spent probably a good 2 months looking and unpacking the data. And then we kind of went and finalized like what the observations made, what questions we had, and what inferences we could make given the data. So some of the data I just want to point out that was included, like I said, we used our Acadians, our math, I don't know why math is in here, sorry, the BAS. We also had feedback from staff and surveys that we used. We did not look at math data. So then we did a SWOT analysis, which is basically strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So it's a really great way to kind of, when you're looking at data, to break it down into kind of manageable chunks, because you're looking at like 5 years worth of data for 900 plus students. So that can be kind of an overwhelming task. So this process really allows us to do a comprehensive understanding of our current state of the curriculum, and then develop our strategies of, like I said, like what are we kind of looking for. So the different areas just gives you a brief description. The strengths look at kind of internal factors that might be affecting our students' success. Then such as like what our engaging materials look like. So these are kind of our strengths. Our weaknesses are internal factors that might hinder the effectiveness of the ELA curriculum, like such as maybe not enough time spent on particular areas that our students then are not carrying over from year to year. So that's what we kind of looked at under weaknesses. Opportunities and threats kind of look at external factors. So looking at things that can be leveraged to improve the ELA curriculum, such as new technology, changes in educational resources, best practices. And then threats, which is kind of a heavy word, I don't know why they use it, but basically looking at things that pose a risk. So in terms of us having an ELA curriculum that might be like highly effective, such as budget needs, maybe a change in state educational standards, maybe like a change in expectations for what literacy is. Those are the kind of the factors that we look at that might be barriers for us, or have caused like a dip in scores, or depending on what the research found. So the next couple of slides just kind of wanted to share with you the results. So we did a family survey, which we had 159 responses. And as you can see, a pretty even spread between all the grade levels. And some of the strengths that families identified in the surveys, that the majority of our families reported that their child enjoys reading, and they feel that the school provides sufficient amount of homework in reading and writing, and that they feel they have sufficient resources as well. 54% of parents identified their child as having as a strength for reading comprehension. 62% identified that their child strength was reading fluency, and 63% said communication and speaking as an area of strength for their child. So we kind of asked, the survey kind of asked, was your child, kind of like what do you observe over the years your child progress in the school, like as curriculum and skills that you saw them kind of master. In terms of challenges, 50% of parents said that grammar and spelling is an area of challenge for their child. About 30% said that writing comprehension and fluency was an area of challenge for their child. They said that additional comments included that students are not transferring skills, especially the areas of foundational skills, such as grammar and spelling in the upper grade levels, which is something that we saw in our scores as well. Our staff survey results that we received, they said that the strengths of, we kind of asked more about the curriculum and kind of what they saw was a strength and in the curriculum that they'd be using. So they said independent and partner reading time provides opportunities for students to engage in reading. Flexibility within lessons that they really valued and saw as a strength in our current curriculum. Having engaging read-alouds, again. Choice in reading material, so being able to have flexibility in in kind of selecting the books that they wanted to read with their class. And put in front of their students, and then having a structured workshop model. So that was an important part of the ELA curriculum that they valued as well. Some of the challenges of the current curriculum that came out is that they felt there was a lot of abstract concept and language. So some of the lessons were just too abstract, making it difficult for students to grasp. They had to do a lot of reteaching. They also said that the current program that we are using requires extensive prep time and supplementing because some of the skills and some of the needs of our students were not met. And like I think our educators, there's always an understanding that every program is going to need some supplementing and preparation, but we really do want our educators to have a program that should have like the core components, so it's minimal supplementing, you know what I mean? There's just more like enriching and enhancing. But if our educators spend a significant amount of pulling resources, it makes it really hard for them to do thorough planning, you know, and being able to address the needs of other students. There's also a lack of alignment with science or reading, so our district did a lot of PD around that, and we found that it wasn't really aligning with that research. Inadequate structuring for special needs students, so they felt that they needed more kind of resources and more specific lessons and more targeted skills to practice, and they felt that our current English language arts program did not have sufficient enough resources and materials, and it was making it difficult for some of our students in special education to be able to fully participate in the English language arts classrooms because they needed the differentiation needed to be a little bit heavier. And then there was insufficient focus on foundational skills, which was kind of something that we identified across the board. So, so that again comes with teachers feeling that they need to do a lot of supplementing in that area. So those were kind of the reading. And in writing, because those are two big areas, so it's easier to just kind of break them apart. So a lot of the strengths kind of overlapped with reading, as you can see. What the thing that they value is authentic writing experiences that the current program had. And that was like, again, we were kind of looking not only what our current program has, but what did we want to make sure that when we're looking for a potentially new program, what is it that we wanted to preserve as great instructional strategies or practices. Appropriate focus on writing genres. So it had a lot of various genres that the students were exposed to throughout their kind of educational progression in English language arts. There was an abundance of resources in skill areas supporting both teachers and students in the writing process, and there was student choice and engagement that, so like a lot of times students had an opportunity to choose about what they were writing, you know, so that was important, so they were able to develop their authentic voice. Some of the challenges, just like in reading again, was the abstract concepts and language, and the teachers I think were looking for more specific addressment of skills. Lack of mechanics and grammar instruction, an unstructured workshop model. So the workshop model kind of gives us an opportunity to really differentiate students' instruction, and also it's very engaging if students are able to have exposure to different materials and be able to practice different ways. So it kind of aligns with our universal design learning process. So they felt that the program kind of lacked enough resources and structures, so that it comes in with a pulling of materials. Inadequate support of differentiated instruction, and some felt there was an excessive focus on revision and not enough on foundational skills. So when the specific writing skills were taught. So one of the things that, when we looked at our different programs, so this is kind of, we took the research in mind, we took everybody's feedback, we looked at our SWOT analysis, we looked at our results, and I think that we've talked a lot about our MCAS results and kind of like what are areas of strength, what are areas that we needed to address, and we know that like grammar and spelling and vocabulary all kind of came up. But we also kind of wanted to, like our statement in the beginning said, that really instilling that love for literature in our students. Our teachers wanted flexibility with, to have some voice, agency over their own instruction, you know, so when we were looking at the different programs, this is kind of like what was our priorities. And just to let you know that the other programs we looked at is Amplify, CKLA, Wonders, Wit and Wisdom, My View, Salvas, ARC, and then we looked into interreading and expeditionary learning. And we felt that those two programs did the best job of kind of encompassing our philosophies, what we valued, but also provided enough structure for the areas that we identified as being gaps. So they offered a lot more explicit instruction, what we needed. There was more consistent vertical alignment, and there was enough differentiation for teachers in terms of the workshop model. This is the rubric which I've shared with you that we kind of use to evaluate. So the ELA team kind of used that rubric when we're evaluating all of the other programs that we looked at, as well as these two. And then this is a rubric we kind of asked our teachers when we've asked them to try out a couple of lessons from each of the programs. We also brought in presenters that kind of did an overview of each of the programs as well. And we dedicated some of our curriculum meetings and data meetings to unpack some of the components of both programs. So even though our educators, it was a sampling, like, you know, you really don't know the full program until you teach it for the full year, you know, or two. But I think like it gave us enough of a taste and a feel for the components that we really were looking for. And this rubric kind of makes sure that we kind of were all aligned in terms of what were areas of priority. So these were the 6 areas that we really wanted to focus on. So the first program that we looked at, and then once we gathered the feedback from our educators, so interreading and interlanguage. And again, interreading does have a K through 6 curriculum, but they also have a 6th through 8th middle school curriculum. And we wanted to give our 6th grade teachers an opportunity to look at both, because sometimes a K through 6 is more like elementary, you know what I mean? So we just want to see if the middle school one was a little bit maybe stronger in the areas that they were looking for just to strengthen skill. So they had an opportunity to review both programs. All our other educators looked at the interreading K through 5. So the strengths of the program that the feedback from our staff has been that everybody found, majority of the teachers found that it was an effective mentor text. They thought the material was really engaging. The program is structured around 12 thematic modules, and they span approximately 3 weeks. The manuals are teacher friendly. There's differentiated and culturally responsive learning that they've identified that is embedded, and there's engaging ELA books in the lesson. Some of the areas of concern, and the way we kind of look at the areas of concern, which is a good kind of thing for us to know, so that regardless of which program we were going to end up selecting, we would know what we need to maybe address ahead of time, you know. So there was some basal reader teaching. So the way the programs has been kind of a shift in literacy. So the programs, most of them we looked at, have a basal component. A basal component is basically everybody has the same book and you kind of work in the same skill, right? That wasn't really the case with our previous program, but one of the benefits of having a basal reader is that it focuses on very specific skills that everybody is exposed to, you know, so all the students are kind of getting. One of the drawbacks of having a basal and why the other programs we kind of dismiss is because it becomes, I don't know if you guys remember, like back in the day when you had like the hard-covered books and those snippets of stories, they just are not very engaging, and I feel like it doesn't really develop the love of reading, doesn't give a lot of choice. So we really wanted to make sure that our program had a balance of that. So that's why like some of the other programs that we found, like it was very heavy in that basal reading, and it kind of went against our philosophy of building joy of reading and writing, you know, for students. But this does have a little bit of a component, so that's something we have to watch and make sure we're balancing, you know, as well. Phonics instruction, so they have a strong phonics instruction, but we're going to need to possibly look at if we need to add more of a spiraling component to make sure that we review skills. So there's it spirals like from grade level to grade level, but within the grade level span itself. We want to make sure that kids might need to get more exposure. We also need to take a look at our time blocks. So the program does need a good amount of time dedicated to English language arts instruction for reading and writing. It pretty much aligns to what we have in terms of allocated minutes, but we just want to make sure that that time is preserved, you know what I mean? So it's not cutting into other needs, maybe transition from like a special to a classroom that might cut into some minutes, you know? So because to be able to really teach this program with intention and being able to expose students to the key components, we want to make sure that our teachers have the allocated time. Overwhelming amount of resources. So again, I think that's a negative and a positive, you know, so it's a buffet. So there's so many things that are available, and we went to visit Franklin, who adopted this program last year. We went to 2 different schools. The ELA committee, we kind of divided and conquered both schools. And they always said that they were kind of in year 0. This is what they call their year, but it gave us a great opportunity to kind of talk to teachers and their literacy specialists and their administrators just to kind of see like how the implementation is going, what recommendations they have for us, like what is their kind of thought. And we were able to meet with pretty much between the 2 schools, all grade levels between kindergarten and 5th grade. Their 6th grade is part of a 6 to 8 middle school, so they kind of adopted something different for their middle school. But they did talk about how we have to be really intentional with what we are kind of using year 1 versus year 2. So because there's so much there, you know, so we want to make sure that we're prioritizing correctly, but also giving us time to really unpack and own the program, you know, for educators. So that's just going to mean a little extra planning, you know, ahead of time over the summer. And then time management is another one, because the program offers so much. So like there's a component of, there's a vocabulary introduction, there's a phonics lesson, there's a lot of like kind of mini touches, which is great before you even get into the core lesson. They said that it's easy to kind of spend too much time on one component and not really get to the other. So that's something that we need to kind of look at how when we structure the ELA block, just to kind of play around with what is that breakdown gonna look like. For expeditionary learning, so this program is another one. It takes a little bit of a different approach into reading. So one of the strengths of the program is that there's an interdisciplinary alignment. Expeditionary learning is an open source program, but then you contract with a company that kind of builds a platform for you. So Imagine Learning is who we would have contracted with for expeditionary learning. But this program, we thought that it had a lot of literacy support. There's decodable readers and authentic mentor text, engaging literature, effective technology use, and they did have strong curriculum content. Topics for 5th and 6th grade, they thought was really robust, and there's our current 6th grade teachers are using expeditionary learning, have been using for the last couple of years, and they do really like the program. So that was another reason why we wanted to take a closer look at it, because they did find a lot of success with it. for K through 5, some of the areas of concern is accessibility. So some materials where they thought like the text might be a little bit too challenging. Engagement, so unlike the previous program where the unit's a little bit shorter, these modules are about 8 to 9 weeks, and they have like an interesting way that they structure it. They very much blended in with science, but what we were kind of concerned, I think it was like 3rd grade, that had like a 9-week unit on frogs, and all the kids would read about is frogs and write about frogs. And I think like one of the concerns we had was just like, that's a long time to spend on frogs, you know what I mean? So that was kind of like one of the things that came out, you know what I mean, during this, is like the concern, you know, over this, the length of the units, and not having enough of kind of exposure to different concepts and different read alouds, you know, and again, sustaining the engagement concerns was because of their kind of very one-focused. I mean, great opportunity for interdisciplinary learning, but that was just some of the things we were worried about. So, another component that we looked at when we looked at this program is we looked on the curate, which is, I can't read my own. It's the curriculum ratings by teachers. So this is what the state has put out. They have gathered educators throughout the state. There's teachers who are currently teaching. There's some higher ed teachers that were on it. There was administrators on it, and they basically ask, it's voluntary, but that publishers submit their programs for review, and they have to meet certain criteria to be able to submit. So most publishers have submitted for review, and they use a rubric, which we kind of base ours on, to evaluate the programs. And I'll show you what the rubric looks like, because that was a big component that we also considered when we were looking at the various programs and these two. And I added links to the whole website if anybody wanted to take a look. They do it for all subject matters, so it is kind of a nice handy tool, because I feel like they kind of started the work for us. Before I was kind of like picking like what's out there, you know what I mean? So they did a nice job culling it. So their rubric is broken down into, they use these little symbols, which is the blue line meets expectations. So all evidence indicates that it's high quality. Little to none indicates there's anything that they found that might not be meeting the state standards. The green is partially meeting expectations, that there's some evidence indicates high quality, while some of the materials might need to be either supplemented or substituted, you know. And then obviously it does not meet expectations. The one area that they haven't rated yet is students' growth, because this is a pretty new system, and a lot of the programs are pretty new because it was they haven't published, so they haven't had enough time to evaluate that. So this is the Curate Review snapshot of interreading. If you go on their website, there's descriptors under each one that are really well kind of put together. They talk about kind of like strengths, and if there are any areas of kind of concern, they kind of capture it too. So each one has like multiple pages that are for each different section. So they kind of looked at standard alignment, classroom application, and then the overall, how does the program measure? And again, the blue one is, they fully meets like the state standards for a high quality curriculum. So as you can see, Into Reading has rated pretty highly. Into Literature got one aspect for accessibility for students, which got partially meeting, but the program has, since the review, because this was in 2020, have made revisions. So they're now waiting for them to revise this rating. So they kind of worked on some of the platform access and making it a little bit more accessible for students.
Can you,
Sure.
Can you define, or help me understand a little bit what accessibility for students means?
So
I just wanna
it's
kinda understand.
basically how so they kind of look at like a lot of the programs now are platform based.
Oh, okay.
So like it kind of even talks about, it covers a couple of things, but one of the things it talks about is when the students look on their student platform, like how easy they can navigate the materials.
Oh, okay.
So it can be as technical as that, to also if there's enough differentiation or kind of enough supports kind of built in to
Okay.
some of the resources. Any other questions? So Curate, for the bottom line, they basically said that intervening introduces students to high quality, grade appropriate texts and engagement in a range of activities designed to build their reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. Materials support teachers as they work with students across levels and with varying degrees of English language development, and they guide teachers to consistently evaluate students' understanding through multiple forms of assessments. One of the things that it did mention is that they felt the materials did not consistently represent and value a diversity of cultures and perspectives across all lessons. So that's one of the things we kind of did more investigation around. And like I said, when we have the more updated version, these are not even the most recent ones. We're actually aligning really great with their adoption for next year because they have revised a lot of they kind of took the feedback, revised their program, and they have included a lot more diverse literature, diverse perspectives. So that's something they have really addressed. So when we were looking at the materials, we saw that they did a pretty thorough job. Into literature, they did that engaging text and purposeful tasks build sequentially to support diverse students in mastering reading, writing, speaking, and learning standards. Essential questions are compelling and give coherence to the text sets. Texts include a range of voices and perspective. They do at that time said that they will need to supplement these materials to ensure that all students see themselves. But again, the program since then has done it, pretty thorough job. And this is one of the updates that they did, where now it says that overall, while the curriculum excels in supporting learners, one of the things we do have to take a look at is support for advanced students. So we want to make sure that's one of the things we might want to need to supplement in terms to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all our students. And I've added the full report to both of them. So this is just wanted to kind of show that what they've done since then in terms of culturally responsive education. So this is a more recent development that has been done after the ratings. So as you can see, they have really kind of, like I said, taken the feedback and have really tried to make the appropriate enhancements. So we surveyed our teachers and intervening into literature got overwhelming vote. The teachers felt that they really that the program would best meet kind of like the new research, and it gives them enough materials and resources, like I said, to address those areas that we identified as gaps. There's enough differentiation for all our students that teachers felt that the materials had enough resources and to be able to differentiate, and it had a pretty good balance in terms of like that basal reading, like more explicit teaching, versus it still has the workshop model. And the workshop model is one of those like overwhelming materials things, but like I said, I think in the long run that's going to serve us well. Is there's a lot of choices for teachers to be able to choose from, so you can really, like, once we are feel more comfortable with unpacking all the different aspects of it, I feel like there's going to be a lot of good resources that teachers can pull from directly and won't have to go outside of the program to always be looking for things. Right. So that's kind of like the last piece of it is the cost proposal. And so the final price for the program is $244,163,000 about, which, and I want to kind of just show you what's included. So teachers, there's all the primary sources are included. Teachers are going to get a full set of readers for each classroom, so they're going to get a lot of books that they're going to be able to update their classroom libraries. There's a lot of, like, most programs have a very thorough kind of online access components. So the students are going to have their own platform. There's going to be a platform for families to be able to log in and see what their students are learning and be able to support. It also, these are some of the books that are included. There's big books included for KN1. So there's a lot of good supplement that is included. And PD for staff is also, so that price is included for that. For 3 through 6, same thing. Teachers are going to get their reading and writing teaching manuals. There's a lot of like cards that come to be able to support. They even have like book sticks. So when you read a book, they have questions already identified. So the teacher can read the book and they can choose to follow the questions. They kind of pull out the important kind of themes that support the whole lesson, So those are a great resource, especially for our new educators that are coming in. I think like there's a lot of, it's kind of like there's enough scaffolding, but there's also enough flexibility, And I know that when we visited Franklin, there was this one book that our grade level kind of did not really like, so they kind of substituted for another book and made their own stickies, like following the, what I mean? So, but it still fit the main lesson. So like I said, it kind of gives you enough agency and voice to be able to differentiate if you needed. This is Writer's Workshop. Again, this is the libraries that are included, technology, and this is what Into Literature looks like too. For the upper grades, there's a lot of, there's a big online component, so teachers it works with Google Classroom, so students can submit assignments online, teachers can assign things online, so it's very interactive. That's available for all grade levels, but it's structured really great for the middle school to be able to prepare them for like, that middle school type of learning, then high school, and then PD also. And the PD looks like, there's going to be some individual grade level coaching. So there's unlimited sessions for grade level coaching. So we were kind of thinking, we're still going to kind of talk about it, I think, as a team, but we can even have a representative that can meet with each grade level before units to help them kind of plan it out. And then there's overarching PD too, that just kind of gives you like an overview of the whole program. So they seem to have pretty decent professional development support. I think that's the end of my spiel. Is there anything that somebody feels maybe I missed that was really important? Kind of putting everybody in a spot here. No? Okay. Thank you. So I'm happy to answer some questions.
I have questions. First of all, very thorough as usual, Vicki, your presentation, and thank you all for the hours and hours and years that I know that you've taken a deep dive into this. So I have a couple questions. I know Governor Healy is doing the new literacy initiative. Will this, I know this is evidence-based and it's culturally responsive. Will this fit that, do you think? Are we going to be mandated? I mean, I know it's not passed, but.
So this program is endorsed by the state and meets all the state requirements for a high-quality curriculum.
Okay.
We have not, so the funding that has been promised and that Governor Healy has talked about, we haven't seen how that's going to roll out to districts yet. So I don't know if that will be in the form of grants that we may be eligible to apply for. It hasn't been a process, and how that's going to actually be funded hasn't been articulated, to my knowledge, Vicki, unless you know.
I have not heard anything about that.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make sure that it.
Yeah, but it would
I'm
be a
sure
high-quality, considered a high-quality research-based program.
Yeah. And my next question is, how can I ask that? Does it come with paired text? Because I know that's like a big thing. I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. So on MCAS, they have to read 2 short stories or 2 things, and they have to compare and contrast. And it's really, it's very complicated. I mean, for the younger kids especially. And I'm just wondering, do you know if they have any opportunities for them to practice that with that? And if you don't know the answer, that's fine.
Right. I mean, I think like, did anybody come across that specific? You did?
I feel like as I go through the samples, they're reading like maybe a poem about a topic and then a story about the same topic.
Oh, great. Okay. And then back to phonics. I thought we used foundations. We don't use foundations?
We do. So we use foundations, and we use Words Their Way for 3 through 6 and foundations for K through 2. So that's something we're going to take a closer look at, kind of like I said, from our visit with Franklin. because they do have a phonics program built in, but like I said, because the program is kind of a big shift and because there's so much to unpack, one of the feedback we got from the teachers we talked about is that they wish that they were able to keep foundations for one more year until they really got solid with the other components, because they felt like it was just easy to have something that was familiar and then maybe in year 2 unpack and incorporate their phonics. When we kind of took an initial look a little bit, we weren't exactly sure if separating would make sense. So I feel like that's something we need to sit down and take a closer look for our plan. But the program does have a phonics program in it. We just have to see like how much it is too.
Yeah, I just know foundations is really great for phonemic awareness, which is different than phonics. And I'm only just because that's
Right.
my thing. When I taught little kids, so I just want to make sure that there's a phonemic awareness part. I'm
There
sure you
is. So
guys
the
will.
program has like, that was a big reason that we kind of chose it. So
Yeah.
it has like explicit instruction for like phonics, phonemics, grammar, there's a really strong vocabulary presence too. And one of the things that we were really impressed that we saw visiting like a lesson that we saw maybe in 1st and 2nd grade, and then we saw one in 5th grade, the level of vocabulary usage that students were. And they, like I said, they've only been using this program this year. It was their first rollout. And the transfer was so evident already, you know, so that was one of the things that I think we were very impressed with. And the teachers kind of spoke to what they were already able to see in shift in kind of the carryover of skills in the upper grade levels, which is something that we were looking at.
Do you ever share resources with the preschool? Just because, I mean, you could do so much with phonemic awareness in preschool. Do you ever, I mean, not that it needs to be an official curriculum, but like, hey, you know what, we have this. This would be really great to use with your 3-4 or 4-5, whatever.
We do, and we've done a lot of professional development on that topic, and our preschool teachers integrate phonemic awareness regularly into circle time, songs, music. It's a daily part of classroom instruction at that level.
Dr. Tupper and I work very closely together too to make sure that there is that alignment between preschool. We talk a lot about professional development needs for preschool teachers too. That's part of our like kind of planning together in terms of curriculum, and they are really part of like any big initiative adoptions as well. So they're kind of, yeah.
And will the teachers still have the ability to have some novel choices? Because I know that, no?
For read alouds, like.
Or like,
classroom
you know
goals.
how like Tiger Rising was like the big, I'm not saying you have to do that every year, but like every grade level
yeah.
usually had a novel that they all read, that all the classes. And
From like talking to the representatives, and like again, from what we kind of saw, it seems that you can substitute novels and you can incorporate. The program does come with a lot, so like I feel like I'm not sure how much substituting I'm going to need to do. We'll know better probably next year this time, you know, but it's not like, that's one of the things, it's not like extremely locked in, you know what I mean? So like I said, like in Franklin, they were able to substitute some books that they thought they just had a better one, but it's still, because it's the same, it targeted the same skills, they were still, it aligned with the lesson. So it wasn't so much, like some of the other programs we looked at, like you had to use their book because you could not have done the lesson. But I feel like the lessons are more skill-based, you can if you wanted to.
so do they use novels at all? At
Yeah,
the 4, 5, 6?
Yeah.
They do, so
Yeah, yeah.
into, okay. I was going to say, because they need that for middle school, for
Right,
sure.
right, right.
Knowing how to do that. And then my last question is it primarily online that they're reading, or will there be, there
No,
will
so
be
everything
books, right?
is available online. So even if there's a couple of resources we could not purchase within our cost limit, but they're online, they're available. So you can basically access anything. But they're getting full libraries. Every teacher's going to get a full library, like all the core materials that they need, and students are going to get a My Book, which is their kind of, that's a more like whole class instructional, which has like short stories in it. There's a read and response section. They're going to get, 3 through 6 is going to get a Show It, Know It, which I'll pass around a little bit too. So there's like a lot of materials that they get. So they get,
So
like,
the reading, it is
yeah,
in
the Know
print
It, Show
copy.
It,
It is.
the
Things are
response.
backed up in online for
too?
resources, but
Yeah.
teachers and students will have
This is
print
the
copy
student,
books in
so every
front
student's
of
gonna
them
have
too.
this, and then they have a couple of more supplemental ones that we got.
Will the stories or novels be online too, just for kids who maybe have dyslexia and they need read aloud, or do?
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions.
No, that's all right. Are some of the core materials available
Oh,
online
so that
for
they could be
students?
read
Everything's
aloud?
available
Everything is.
online.
Yeah,
all the stories
All
and
the
everything, so
story-
the kids can have access to that maybe have trouble reading? Oh, that's awesome.
And it has like, it has, like it tracks the.
Yeah.
You know, the will
That's
highlight
great.
for
That
you.
looks
and, you know.
cool. That's
The
such a
interactive
relief.
platform, like I said, when we said like there's overwhelming, like the interactive platform is like huge, like it does have a lot, there's videos that come with it, like, you know, it's just, and like the lessons, the teachers can pull up like their core lessons, and on the teacher, like if they're doing like unit 1, whatever, all the books are embedded as links, so a teacher can click and the book will come up. So you can have the students have the book in front of them, and it can be on the board, you know, so there's a lot of, like, it's very interactive, I have to say that. I was a little bit kind of like impressed with how much technology they integrated.
That's it.
I think this is really great, Vicki. I love that the committee was comprised of all the grade levels across all our learners, and the fact that it got such overwhelmingly positive feedback.
Well, I have to say, they really drove the whole process, I just
Yeah.
facilitated.
No, I appreciate that. I just had one question. When you were talking about the basal reader, the way I understand it, that's just the in-class instruction, and it's not a departure from, you know, like the book bags with the leveled reading wherever that child is. Each kid can still get that.
Yeah, so they get,
customization.
what is the library, Beth, I'm sorry? The Rigby readers, right, which are leveled.
I'm sorry.
Which
Yeah,
are
they're leveled
right?
readers, yeah.
So they get, so K through 2 gets Rigby readers, which are leveled. My books will have stories in it, which is like that whole class instruction, which I said is very skill-based. And then during the center time, when they break up, that's when they will get the other library selections, where it's more like, and teachers can, like I said, that's a great part to supplement. You can supplement that part, the workshop model, heavily. So kids will have like a structured lesson, they will have like those specific instruction books, you know, that will work on specific skills, and then they'll have like the more read alouds that they can kind of, you know, more for fluency and stuff.
But
So,
it's
yeah.
similar to what we do now, where you can give one child books at a certain level and then another. The way like our book,
Yeah.
my kids' book bags come home, they have
They're
levels.
kind of,
they
right, and I
gradually
think
move
like our
up the
teachers
year.
can still send the books, like we're not getting, like we're keeping all our books, you know what I mean? It's just more like what we're looking for is that structure. So the kids in every classroom are kind of getting similar exposure that is leveled enough and more explicit instructions what we were missing. Like like the resources we have and kind of our philosophy, teachers do a great job kind of providing, like putting basically books in front of the kids' hands, you know what I mean? So that can still be incorporated part of it. Like we're not taking that away. It's just more that like when the core lesson happens, that's going to be like explicit instruction that are going to address specific skills that build on each other vertically, you know. The other components are easy to fold in, you know. Sure.
I have a question. Although I thank you for making me very nostalgic about book bags.
I know. Seeing a book bag, I know.
All the time. In looking at where you started with the survey results, both from the families and from the staff, it seems to me, and maybe it's just because I have at least one voracious reader and one happy reader in my house, but two reluctant writers. It seems like writing seemed to be one of the bigger, more
Right.
emphasized challenge areas with respect to foundations and just kind of basic skill sets, so grammar, and spelling, and how you structure what you're writing. And I appreciate that what we've been doing up until this point has been geared towards creating sort of a enjoyment of writing, comfort and collaboration. I think that's wonderful, but I mean, do you feel that where there are so many, the parent feedback about reading is overwhelmingly like, yeah, our kids love to read.
Right.
There's challenges there, but on the flip side of that, it's, I think only half the parents said their child likes to write, and then it seems like there's actual sort of very granular identification from the staff survey that says, this is what's missing in the writing curriculum
Right.
that we've been using up until this point. So it's a question in two parts. I think I know the answer to the first one, which is, do we think that, this will provide that sort of foundational scaffolding to the writing curriculum? And then the second portion is, we're going to flip a switch into teaching writing in a different way for the students that will be picking this up,
Right.
not starting in kindergarten, but who are now in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Does the curriculum kind of take that into account as they're kind of rolling
Right.
into a new way
So-
of approaching this?
No, that's a great question, and I'll definitely have, if anybody wants to kind of add too, but I think that one of the things that we really liked about this curriculum is that it embeds those structures of writing right into the lesson. So like the students, we're, like I said, we're missing that very explicit like spelling, grammar, instruction, and that is now very evident and clearly kind of delineated within the lessons. Students will also have an opportunity to kind of read specific passages and be able to respond to it. So it's, I think there's a nice balance before where students do have a chance to be able to write for like an opinion writing, about something, but there's also kind of mixed in with that. It's just like we're working on a specific skill that we want students to be able to develop themselves as writers. So I think that that's where the programs are a lot more structured now. But I don't know does anybody have anything they want to add about the writing component?
I think one piece we really liked with the 3 modules for this is that whole spiral with the writing as well. So rather than teaching a unit on narrative for 5 or 6 weeks, which is what we do now, and then maybe move on to nonfiction, everything will come back again multiple times throughout the year, so they have opportunities to build on what they've learned throughout the year in writing and reading.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll know when we know, but it's
I mean, like I
ourselves
said,
in the
I think the
direction.
programs now are just, they're a lot more structured. I think we were trying to find one that is not like overly scripted, you know what I mean? So I think this one has a good balance of both. But I think the idea of like having structure and being very explicit in what we are teaching and making sure, like I said, there's spiraling, something that we were really struggling with too. I think that is built in. So not only within the year, but there's also a vertical spiral. So students are exposed to skills and concepts throughout. There's a very distinct kind of connection, and you can really see that in the maps too, which I'm happy to send to you. Like if I'm happy to share, like I can show you the kind of like the year at a glance, kind of like what I can email that to you, so you can, just for curiosity purposes,
It's interesting.
They said, like in the beginning, we're building those new routines.
Mhm.
So, it's going to be a learning curve for everybody. So we're going to build that routine and they're all going to learn it. It's not like they love the writing program that we're doing now.
I think you'll get any
Right.
complaints.
So,
Yeah.
this new routine might be welcome to them as a nice change for them as well.
Yeah. It's because it gives us like an opportunity to keep that whole like art of teaching still into it. You know what I mean? Like we don't want to, because our teachers do a magnificent job to be able to bring in those skills. This is going to minimize them having to pull, and it's going to have some consistency, so all the teachers have access to the same resources. It's not based on like who found something. You know what I mean? That was a little bit stronger then. So, but yeah.
I do have to give kudos to my daughter's teachers, because she came home from MCAS and she's like, Mom, I did my planning sheet before I did my writing. And from working in middle
She's the
school, nobody uses the paper planning. So whatever you're doing at the elementary, please keep doing it, so that way they get used to it. Because if they get to middle school and they're not doing it, you get a whole pile of organizers just
Sitting on the desk.
sitting on the desk. So thank you.
I don't have any questions because you actually answered them. And so I wanted to say thank you for being so thorough. Everything I had a question about, I didn't realize that the surveys were done in 2020, so like that was the big one. But yeah, thank you all for doing such a really remarkably thorough job. It must have been a ton of work.
I mean, I think it was worth the effort, right? I think we are, if you agree with this program, I think it's really gonna give us the resources that we've been looking for.
And I'll just jump on, Grace, because I'm the only one who hasn't said thank you. So thank you for everyone's hard work.
I'm not sure I actually said thank you.
Oh,
Thank you all very much.
You did a good job. So the next, I think you need the committee to vote to approve the adoption of Into Reading and Into Literature for the Norfolk Public Schools.
I am looking for a motion to do just that.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, this is exciting.
Excellent.
Just want to thank the committee again. Thank you for coming, give you a
thank you
chance
all.
to.
Yes, thank
You're welcome to stay, but I'm sure that it's been a very late.
Moved it up so that you could go.
We'll just
And that's
pause
stay
for
with us.
60 seconds.
That's right. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. That was great.
Thank you.
babysitter that I've actually never met before, and she got there like 30 minutes late.
Oh, that's stressful.
And then
No,
there
it
was
was okay. She showed up and she looked so young, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm doing this.
Alrighty, moving on, oh, I'm sorry, you're still your portion of the
I
evening.
can
Do
move
it.
on, and I'll
Go
try
for
to go
it. Yeah.
quickly through some of the next items.
Let's go.
Every year, the school committee has certain responsibilities under the Mass state laws and statutes for hiring in school districts. So one of the appointments that's the responsibility of the school committee is to appoint the special education director. Dr. Anna Tupper has been our special education director in Norfolk. I believe it's over 12 years now, and her contract expires on June 30th. So I am recommending to the committee that we renew Dr. Tupper's contract for an additional year. The terms of the contract, the entire contract's attached. The changes from her prior contract, this reflects a 3% COLA increase for Dr. Tupper. And the only other change, she had previously, like many administrators, had a cell phone allowance, and we're recommending moving the monthly cell phone allowance into the base salary just for management and ease of function. Other than that, all of the remaining elements of her contract are consistent with her prior contract. I think Dr. Tupper does an outstanding job. As you know, as we've talked through the budget conversations, we are significantly understaffed in special education, and she, in order to preserve positions in the past, we've cut clerical support from the special education office. We haven't been able to fill the team chair role, so she does a Herculean job and is chairing team meetings and running around interviewing candidates. And I mean, I had a meeting with her today at 10, and she's like, can you come here? Because she's already been to the Freeman 3 times, and it was 1 o'clock for a meeting, and then back to HOD and back. So I think she does an excellent job, and I would highly recommend that we move forward with renewing her contract. So I am looking for a vote to approve Dr. Tupper's contract for the 24-25 school year.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry.
You may.
Are these contracts usually just 1 year, or just because of like the cost of living?
No. Generally, different contracts are for different lengths of time.
Oh, I didn't know if hers was always
Administrators'
a year.
contracts can be from 1 to 3 years generally.
Okay.
The nurses' contracts are annual, so those are 1-year contracts. I would be happy to extend the contract at this point. Dr. Tupper was looking for a 1-year contract.
Okay, that's why I didn't know if she had requested one specifically. Just curious.
So looking for a motion from the committee to approve Dr. Tupper's contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions, other than thank you, Dr. Tupper, from me for all your hard work.
This is an amazing job.
Great job.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, next in your packet, at our last meeting, we talked about how within our phase 1 of the strategic plan, we have multiple initiatives. I was trying to pace it, so I'm not bringing you 30 to read at a time, but we have 2 more action plan maps for different strategic plan initiatives. The first is for a technology review of our technology curriculum, and there's several components. It's been multiple years. We were scheduled to do a full review of the tech curriculum right before the pandemic. Then after we had a lot, we kind of put it to the side because we needed to relook at learning loss, accelerated learning, changing, updating our curriculum. So it's been a few years. There's several really critical things that we have to think about in the technology review. One, we want to really define clearly what counts as screen time and how much screen time students should have at school by age level. So that's one of the tasks that they're going to look at. We also have to look at and develop a position statement around artificial intelligence and the role of AI in the Norfolk Public Schools. So where is it beneficial and where might it hinder or interrupt learning? So those are 2 things that we need to look at. We also want to look at our technology curriculum in light of the fact that we are reducing a tech integration teacher next year. So we need to really look at how those learning standards are being addressed within the core curriculum and how we're going to restructure that program to meet the needs of the students. We also will be looking at other components such as our 5-year long-range replacement plan for all technology equipment for budget purposes. We want to, the tech team has been working really hard and continues to work really hard on a cybersecurity plan in response to critical incidents. We've been partnering with the town. So Beyond the curriculum, we're looking at some big picture items around policy for AI and for screen time, as well as infrastructure needs and the cybersecurity piece. So those are sort of the big picture, and then you can see the timeline and who's responsible and what the expected outcomes are for the tech review. And then the other component that's included here is a review of our school behavioral, social emotional behavioral programs and the approach to positive behavior incentive plans in both schools. This is copied a little funky, but yeah, so you can see the action steps. That will also be similar to a curriculum review. Both of our buildings this year have been implementing some different approaches to, like you've heard about the Falcons to Falcons program, which is structured similar to a PBIS approach. So common expectations in the classroom, recognition for student efforts towards modeling exemplary behaviors, for collaborating well with peers. So we want to get feedback. HL of Day is doing kindness coins and school-wide meetings, which are also elements of a responsive classroom or PBIS kind of program. We want to get feedback on how those things are going in each of the schools, and then expand that to look at where do we still have needs. Is there value in looking at a district-wide or systematic approach? And also, it's been several years by that time since we've looked at our Open Circle and our Second Step programs. So we would do a typical curriculum review of those content areas. So those are what's proposed in these two action maps. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, we will be updating progress, and I have a few more to bring you at the next meeting too for some of the other initiatives. But these are pretty cut and dry curriculum reviews.
So, why don't we get a motion on the floor and then we
Sure.
can have our debate. Looking for a motion to accept the Phase 1 strategic plan action maps around technology and social emotional learning. But
Yep.
I won't say discipline, I'll say positive behavior reinforcement practices.
So moved.
Second. All right, any questions or further discussion? No? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Per district policy, every quarter I provide you with a bullying report update. This quarter, there were no discipline issues or reports regarding bullying at the HL of Day School. And we had one report at the Freeman Kennedy that was fully investigated and was determined not to meet the criteria for bullying. As always, appropriate disciplinary measures are taken, consistent with the District Code of Conduct. We continue to use Second Step as our bullying prevention program from K through 6, as well as Open Circle and Second Step for our SEL learning. Positive thing I would say is we are starting to see this trend down. Immediately following COVID, we were seeing higher rates of bullying reports come in. We're back to where we were pretty much baseline prior to the pandemic, so we're seeing that trend down. Any questions on this one?
Oh, I don't want to do the next one. I mean, thank you, but.
Well, the last thing tonight, we have one school committee member who we know this is her last official meeting. So it's the last meeting for Jen Wynn. So I had a few comments to share, and then I'll turn it to the committee. So Jen, first of all, I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been a long period of time now. Jen was first elected to the school committee in 2018 and has served 2 3-year consecutive terms. During the time she's been on the school committee, she has served as the chair of the policy subcommittee. She's also been on the Norfolk teacher contract negotiation committee, as well as our appointed rep on the KP school committee. As an educator herself, Jen has always been passionate and a dedicated advocate for children. From her first engagement with the school committee as a parent advocating for universal free kindergarten programming for all children, through her diligent oversight of the district's plans in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Jen leads with her heart and keeps the best interests of children as the anchor of her decision-making. I can always count on Jen to have questions, to push my thinking, and to keep me informed of important happenings in the community. It's been an honor and pleasure to work with Jen over the past 6 years. She's a kind, compassionate, and thoughtful individual who puts her whole heart into everything she does. For example, Just a few years back, we were involved in the roof replacement project over at the HL of Day. And it was happening during the summer, and we went through this heat stretch. It was probably over 100 degrees. It was brutal. I was away on vacation in Canada, and I got a phone call from one of the facility staff, and they're like, "There's a lady here handing out popsicles to the roof contractors. Is that okay?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, is it okay?" I was like, "Is it Jen Wynn?" And he was like, "Hold on. Yeah, it's Jen." I was like, "Okay, it's okay, it's okay." But that kind of, like, who does that? Who takes time during the summer to go over and bring popsicles to the roofers that are working on our building to try to get that project finished in time for school to open? So again, she just always goes above and beyond, and it's been a pleasure working with Jen. So certainly we wish you the best as you move on to new endeavors, and thank you for all that you've done for Norfolk, and you certainly will be truly missed. And we do have some gifts, parting gifts. So a few things. Oh, first of all, these are for you. They're so pretending it's spring, but it actually is. This you have to open, and the rest of the set is coming. Oh, nice. Your Norfolk awful. So sweet. You're very welcome. But open the gift because we have our new facilities. No, our new facilities director, Matt Malnrich, is incredibly talented. He does a lot of beautiful woodworking and different things.
Yes.
So he's been doing stonework, and he's making a set of these for you. You only have the first to see, but.
I remember when he did some stuff for the kiddos in one of the special rooms for OT or something.
Yes, he's done the flag.
Amazing.
Right? Yeah, and he did the. So those, you're gonna get a set, but that's the first one. They're stonework coasters.
This is amazing. It is a coaster, and it says Norfolk, Mass. Incorporated, February 23rd. It's
the town seal.
It's the town seal. And can I just tell you, we just got a new coffee table today.
Wow, there you go.
And like, it's just this beautiful wood, and I was like, oh, we're gonna have to get like, because before we had like reclaim. Like nobody touch anything. I literally was like, oh, I need to go get some nice coasters. These are perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So we will send you the rest of the set as.
Oh, tell them they're wonderful.
They are beautiful. He does beautiful work.
I wouldn't be surprised if people start calling him to start like selling them. Like honestly,
you can be the first.
As a
you can be one of the first
fundraiser
that has.
But all right, well then the schools get the first dibs, not NCL. But I just want to say thank you, Ingrid. And Vicki. Thank you. It's just been fabulous. I had all these thoughts in my head about what I wanted to say, and it's just, now I'm like forgetting everything, but it's been just an honor to work, and just your model of leadership has been just fabulous. And in working with Medora, I know I'll still see you, and I just, what are we going to talk about?
I know. We still talk about this. It's all public record.
But and all of you, and just my experience, it's been wild, and I've learned so much, and I've always said that education, a good school, it comes top down, and it starts with the superintendent and the school committee. And I swear, if we can all work together and be collaborative, it really trickles down to administration, which trickles down to the staff, which trickles down to the students in the classroom, and it all works and flows together. And so I just want to say thank you for, just always having patience with my questions. I always felt psychologically safe to ask those questions and to comment, and I want to say thank you to you all for just keeping an open mind and being, as my favorite TV character will say, be curious, not judgmental. And when I say that, I've always felt that from everyone that I've been served on the committee. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for all you've done.
My pleasure.
All right, then she could give a King Philip update.
Oh, geez, there's a lot, actually. Okay, wonderful things, as always, with KP in terms of the student council. They just had the MICA. That wasn't student council, but they had the MICA, which is the music. I'm not really sure what MICA stands for, but it's the musical competition for all, for chorus and
Chamber
music.
and choral music, yes.
And that was at KP, and they hosted it across many districts across the state. They just did a clothing drive for women in shelters. Dr. Drolet, our new superintendent, just held the first KP strategic planning with school committee members, staff, as well as members of the community, and they're going to be developing. They did a survey, over 1,000 people responded, which was really great, and they're analyzing that data, and they're going to be meeting again on April 11th, and over the next 4 to 5 meetings, they will be developing a 5-year strategic plan for KP. So that's really, really a great start. And also there will be a bone marrow drive for a young man at KP, DJ, on April 27th at KP High School from 10 to 1. It's just a swab, so it's not like anything intense, and it's just to see if you're a match for anyone. It's for anyone, but hopefully DJ will find a match, and that's April 27th at KP High School, 10 a.m. So.
It's the Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association.
Oh, that's that one. I just know it as Micah.
I had instrumental and choral.
Music and chorus and singing.
It's a mouthful.
Does the bone marrow drive run like all day?
10 to 1.
10 to 1.
10 to 1.
It's at the KP High School, you said?
KP High School. Yep. April 27th, so after break.
It's opening day for baseball and softball, that's why I'm afraid that.
Oh,
Is it there?
That's why. I
No,
didn't
it's
see.
here, so it's like, it's just a very time, like, I think that's like.
That's a
from 10
busy
to
day,
1,
yeah.
just too bad.
And I'm sure, yeah.
Maybe people can run over and come back to the bouncy houses after the parade. So. Okay.
Next, policy.
Policy, so we have a small thing, an incidental editorial, I guess, change to policy, the actual ADF.
And this is the wellness policy that the Wellness Committee works on. We had a recent food service audit, and as a result of that audit, there's 2 things that have to be changed in the policy to make it compliant. We have to change the word, we have guidelines, and it's supposed to be goals. So we have to change guidelines to goals. And then we also have to make it, the policy is available online, but it has to say in the policy that the updated policy is available online. So those are the only 2 changes to the policy. They're incidental. They're marked. You can see it's goals is crossed, guidelines is crossed out, and it says goals. And then that last statement's added. So those are the only 2 changes.
So looking for a motion to approve those 2 changes to policy ADF.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Building committee, would the chair of the building committee care to?
Yes, it can be a quick update because I believe we have not met since the last school committee meeting. We're meeting tomorrow, and we should have a lot of new information tomorrow. I did see Ingrid just sent the final report from
DAA demographics.
I was like, acronym. But I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but it's going to go out to everybody on the building committee, so that should be interesting. I imagine more of the same. It was very thorough in the presentation. So more to report next time.
Yep. And after the, so the report, the final report we just received today, it's going to be presented to the building committee tomorrow night, and as soon as the building committee's reviewed it, it will be posted and available to the public online. So it was, I did read through it today, reflected everything that the highlights that they presented, but it is very thorough and detailed. It provided more information on the data sources they use, the model they use for projection, what assumptions they made. So I thought it was really well done, and I think it'll be helpful for the community. And again, it'll be available once the committee has had a chance to review it.
That's tomorrow here at 7 o'clock. for anyone
Yes,
who's
same
interested.
time tomorrow, right here.
You're going?
New items. All right, we are cooking along? Were you all set with that, Grace?
Yes, I am all
Okay, all right. So school partners renewal, we have an application from the amazing King Philip Music Association, not that I'm biased, to renew their school partnership with our local schools. KP Music is a great partner, and they provide amazing programming, and I think that they, an example of some of what they do, probably, I know we coordinate with them to do there's a summer band tutoring program that's free for students that are in the advanced band here, and it's just, I can't list any. They're amazing. So looking for a motion to approve the partnership renewal for the King Philip Music Association.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're in the home stretch with,
We have 2 sets of minutes because we
Minutes.
had, the last meeting was the public hearing on the budget first and then a second school committee meeting. So you have 2 sets of minutes for that.
okay, has everyone done their homework?
Yes.
Let's march through then. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the public hearing held on March 12th, 2024?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then may I get a motion to approve the school committee meeting minutes from March 12th, 2024 that immediately followed the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion there? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And our next typical school committee meeting is on May 21st, but we do have a joint meeting with the select board scheduled for Tuesday, April 23rd.
At 7 o'clock.
At 7 o'clock.
And where's that at?
That's going to be at Town Hall at room 129. I think it's
124.
124.
Same
The
one.
room on the first floor, yep.
What do you think, Karen? 124?
Yeah. And their meeting starts before. They're starting at 6, and then we will join at 7 for the joint meeting.
Okay.
They have some executive sessions prior.
So we don't need to be there until 7?
Yep.
That
The
works
joint
great
meeting,
with my
we're
softball
posting for
commitments.
7
Thank you.
o'clock for the
Okay.
joint meeting to
Is it
start,
an
so.
official meeting, Ingrid? Will you have to?
We go into a joint session, so we will
Yep.
need a quorum, and there will be minutes, and it will be
Yep.
official.
And there is a vote scheduled, because we have to vote on you said the stabilization fund, so that's a vote item, and then there'll be a presentation from the demographers of their findings and the report for questions.
And are those
From
the
both
only 2
committees.
things on the agenda?
Those are the only 2 things on the joint agenda. The select board's meeting, it's their regular standing
It's the only
scheduled
things on
meeting.
our agenda.
Those are the only 2 things on ours.
Correct.
Yes,
I
yeah.
imagine they'll have other
First.
things to talk about since town meeting is rapidly
Yeah.
approaching after that
Right.
date.
Right,
I can't be there till 7:30
okay.
or 7:45 really, because I gotta get Leah from dance.
Okay.
So
Well, I think
Okay.
probably won't be presenting right at 7.
I think the demographer is up first, so he'll be presenting first, and then we'll do questions after that presentation, and then move on to the stabilization fund vote.
Okay.
So,
Be-
I think we have a quorum regardless.
Okay. Okay.
great.
But please come,
Okay.
because we'll miss you by then. Room 124. 124.
Thank you.
Got it. All right, so all that being said, we need a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Aw.
Bang the gavel.
You can bang again.
There you go.
Someone has to second your motion. first. Don't bang it until you vote.
All right.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, hit it. There.